when I look at the sample of handwriting, I'm not just looking at it from a graphological point of view or from a handwriting analysis point of view. I'm looking at more of a subconscious point of view.
Okay, we want to welcome you to the Infinite Wisdom Interview Series one more time. This is the place for you to expand your mind, to stretch your horizons, and see the vastness of the possibilities the universe has to offer. We created a community here of thousands of brilliant individuals, all with the hopes and the desires to build a better world for ourselves, our children, and our children's children. So tell us where you're from. Drop it in the comments. Give us a hint, a landmark, a city, a country. You know, we have such a large global community of spiritually minded souls, and we really want to know where you're from and let others know where you're from. And if you're new to our show, type in hashtag first time, and we'll go in and give you a nice greeting. And we want to realize how many millions of people are out there that think and they feel the same way that you do. And as usual, we are fulfilling our promise to bring you cutting edge knowledge, techniques, and wisdom that can transform your life. And today's guest is Yasmin Ziada. And she's a personal transformation, high acceleration coach with a passion for helping people achieve their goals and live their best lives. She discovered her love for coaching while overcoming her own personal challenges and learning to embrace a growth mindset. All her learning and all of her experience led her to become fascinated with the power of the mind and its ability to shape our reality. She ultimately decided to turn her passion into a career. I like her thinking. Since becoming a coach, her primary focus has been on assisting numerous clients in overcoming their limiting beliefs. She developed PTHA, a form of handwriting analysis, which utilizes unique visual tools as well as personal transformation coaching techniques that center around perception and the subconscious mind. Then finding the underlying cause that is holding her clients back and helping them move forward while developing a more positive outlook on life. She carries a degree in English linguistics with 3 decades experience in handwriting analysis, advanced certificate in life coaching. She is a REBT mindset life coaching, focus mastery and breakthrough life coaching. This lady's loaded. She's got neuroscience for personal development, modern applied psychology, and emotional intelligence, all which support her methods of supporting and empowering her clients. And we might add that Yasmin has demonstrated her abilities on both myself and Gary, showing her unique talent and capabilities and as a professional executive coach. So let's get busy. This is going to be so cool. Yasmin, thank you so much for joining us today. You overpowered us with your expertise, and so that's why we wanted to get you on the show so quick. This is awesome. So welcome.
Thank you so much for having me on the Infinite Wisdom series. I'm really grateful to be here with everybody here because we all share the same passion. And things that I've been through my whole entire life has been experience after experience. And to be able to bring that forward and help people is everything that I need right now.
Mm-hmm. So let's start there, Yasmin. Let's start there with what. So you had to overcome some personal challenges. Why don't you share the audience what that is, so they can relate with maybe they're going through similar type things, and can see a light at the end of the tunnel through what you're doing.
Yeah. back in 2004, when I was pregnant with my daughter, who's now 18, my husband and I were involved in a car accident. We were on a motorway, full speed. A car comes past us and then just curves in front of us and stops. And we had no time to stop, and we just went straight in. The cause of that crash was so severe, my head hit against the windshield. So I've got a lesion in the front right lobe of my brain. During about 5 years or so, I suffered a gradual decline in my cognitive abilities. So I started forgetting people. I started forgetting names of fruits and vegetables. I couldn't remember like basic stuff, and I had to start nearly from zero. And it was a very difficult time for me because during that time, I couldn't really say what was going on because there was so much shame that, you know, I'm not the person I was. I couldn't really do anything about it because at the time we lived in Iraq. So I couldn't really go to a doctor, or I couldn't really go during the war. It was very difficult at the time. And there was no physical sign that something was really wrong. So we just left it. And over time, it kind of decreased. So when I got to England, we went to see the doctors because I reached a point where I could barely remember anything. And after the MRIs and scans and everything, they were like, oh, this is what's going on with you. So we figured out what was happening, but it slowly got worse and worse and worse. And I really struggled. I couldn't read properly. I couldn't write properly. I mean, I had to find different people to read for me. You know, I just make up any story. Oh, I've got a headache right now. Can you help me read this? Or I tried to make it out. A very slow reader from becoming, you know, from where I was before. My handwriting suffered. And I reached a point where I said, I can't do this. I need to find a way out. So my daughter was around 2 or 3 at the time. She's just started school, started to get her first words. So while she's learning how to read her words, I would sit with her and I would watch and I would relearn. So I kind of learned how to read with my daughter again, kind of like figuring out the words and the spacing between the words and all of that. From that, I got to a place where I can figure out how to read. And through years of practice, by 2012, I was sufficient enough to take, sorry, it's a bit emotional to talk about it. I felt sufficient enough to be able to take courses. So I started, whatever course I could grab my hands on, I would grab. Any book I could read, I would read. Audible was my best friend because I put it in, I'd listen. I just listen, I'd take in information. I needed to understand how come I was very, very, knowledgeable, got into a crash, lost myself, and then how am I finding myself back? How is that happening? How is the brain working? I mean, if there was damage, I shouldn't be able to come back. So how is that happening? And so I went into a discovery and I was, obsessed. I needed to understand. So my knowledge of handwriting analysis, I've never lost. I haven't lost certain other motor skills, but like people's faces, names, things like that, I would lose. So it was quite interesting why these aspects were happening.
For sure.
And so I dived deep in. And then I thought to myself, hold on, after all this time, I was able to get certified. I was able to put myself back up. I was able to work a bit. And then I was like, if I can do this, anybody can overcome limitations within reason, obviously, but we can overcome limitations. So my passion turned into, I want to help others. If I can do it for myself, then I can help others. And I went into further, I went down the rabbit hole, if you will, trying to figure things out. And I was wondering, why is it when I write or when anybody writes, why do we have, like in graphology, handwriting analysis, they tell you traits? Why are those traits that way? Who
Mhm.
says that those are the traits? Are they linked to my emotion? If it is, how is it transforming from my mind to my hand to the paper? Why is it when I'm happy, it's coming out bubbly and nice and, bouncy, and when I'm angry, it comes out jagged and rough and dark? What's happening in the brain? So I went into neuroscience, called personal development, and I was trying to figure out the connection, and I did, and I'm really happy that I did. That's why I was asking you at the beginning, how sciencey do you want to get? But by finding out different aspects of the brain and how the neurochemicals in our brain interact with different sections of the brain, it's very clear that our emotions are linked to our handwriting because of the motor, like all the motor skills that we have, the way we write, how we grip our pen, everything is connected in one form or another. And that really got me going into finding out more about people's emotions. So that took me into emotional intelligence. It took me into psychology, modern applied psychology. It took me to all other fields, REBT mindset. Right. And I just needed to understand more. So then when I come forward and I say, hey, I think I know what's going on, it's because I know what's going on. You know what I mean? Right. And so that's what brought me here, really.
Mm-hmm. So what let's get down to the basics then. So you're saying that as a person matures, that their handwriting is going to change. And that's
it will change.
Is that based on emotion? Is that based on intelligence? Is that based on what is changing in a person that is being translated down into their handwriting?
It's from their emotion and from their motor network. Mm-hmm. So if they're becoming older, like it depends on how old you're talking about. If it's somebody in the 90s, their reflexes aren't the same as somebody who's in the 20s. Mm-hmm. So that shows up. If they've got any illnesses, depending on where the illness is, that will show up. Okay. If it's to do with for example, I think the best way to take you through this is when we were children learning how to write, we were given a script, and this is how we have to follow the line. We have to follow a dotted line until we make the letters. So everybody in the class had exactly the same writing because we were all following the dotted line. Right. As we were growing up, we started to have our own emotions. Somebody upset me. Somebody said this to me. I got a great grade. Look at me. I'm happy. We all became individual in our own emotion. And that started to show up in the handwriting. So as you see children start to grow older, their handwriting becomes individual to themselves because of their emotion, because of how they're viewing things around them, because of how their circuits are working and how it's all coming together. Whether it's the grip of the pen, the spacing within the line, the spacing between, the bottom and the top line of the paper, and all of it comes together. And this all transforms into kind of their own language on paper. So what their subconscious is telling you is coming straight down without them realizing it. And it takes certain people to be able to read between these lines and identify what's going on. And I think this is so important because if other people learn how to do this skill, when looking at anybody's handwriting, you can find out what is going on, like what is actually happening with them. Mm-hmm. When they're saying something, where they're coming from. Is it coming from a place of fear? Is it coming from a place of, overwhelm? Is it coming from a place of, I need help, but I don't know how to ask? All of these things come into play. Mm. So if we can figure that out, can you imagine how much we can help children and how much support we can give them without having them feeling inadequate or I can't ask or I can't say.
Right. Yeah. I mean, well, I will insert this is that when you and I first met, you didn't know anything about me. And I did a simple exercise and you had me pegged. I mean, my career, my background, how I think, what are some of my barriers and some of the things that may be hindering me. And I mean, I was blown away. And
Yeah.
and I had met you through Gary, and Gary's like, you got to meet this woman. She's amazing.
Thank you.
And then,
Yeah.
but from the moment, so you had worked with Gary a week prior, Gary, was it?
Yep.
Week prior. And when we did the session with the three of us, you had already said that Gary's had already changed.
Yes.
Evolved, for I think was the term that you used. So so are you saying that there's a basic format to an individual's handwriting, but then there's the nuances that you have trained yourself to pick up on?
Yeah. Well, the difference between what I do and what normal handwriting is, just so that your audience are more clear, is like forensics handwriting, they look at the page in totality. They look at the spacing between, they look at the letters and the sizing, and they can authenticate if this person wrote this document or not. When it comes to graphology, they look more at traits. They look at behaviors. They look at different qualities of a personality. What I do, however, I took it to a whole new level, and I took each single letter and I developed a system for it. And this system goes beyond, because it tells you exactly where the person is, what is happening in their life, how are they moving forward. And you can, after becoming, an expert like I am in what I'm doing, you can find out where their projection is. And you already know, like I already know where you guys are heading in a way. But if I interfere with it and I say, oh, by the way, you should do this, you should do this, and I interfere with it, that means that I'm going to interfere with your progression, which is not right, something I don't like. But it is possible. That's what makes it different. So when Gary first drew something and he wrote, the letter O is what we were working on, I did the analysis. The next time he wrote the letter O, there was a change. There was a change in the format. If he and I think it's because he heard what I said and he started thinking about it. And that in itself will change the behavior, because subconsciously you've already made a move forward. If Gary was to have met with me and he didn't take what I said into consideration and he just, blew it off, his handwriting would not change. It will come out a carbon copy of the one before. If you put them one by one together, they'll be exactly the same. So you can always progress, you can always stay the same, or you can digress. It depends on the person, their mood, it depends on their emotion, and it depends on what they see their future to be. So that's how it changes. That's why PTHA is different from graphology and handwriting, even though it still deals with handwriting.
Okay. So this is deep. So you're looking at this handwriting, and you're kind of seeing the past, the present, and the future of that personality trait. Now, are you seeing? Okay, so, but you for it to be that evolved and that dimensional, you need to see a progression of handwriting, or can it be from just one instance?
Just one. For example, if you draw me two banks of a river, I know I can break it down to years, like when you were a child. When you were 5 years old, this happened. When you were 6 years old, this experience happened. And the experience would be the experiences that had an effect on you. Only those would show up. And so on and so forth. I stop always exactly where you are today. I never go forward. Because that's playing with, with fire.
Right.
Because I could,
which means you can tell a momentum of something, but not necessarily a prediction of it.
No, you could go into it. It goes really deep. So just like I was analyzing you from what's available to you, I could do the same but I just don't think it's ethical.
Got it.
In my view, I don't think it's ethical. If, however, I see there is danger, I see there is something, then I've got an obligation to say, maybe you should, rethink. But I'm not going to tell you what's happening. I just say, maybe you should rethink a couple of things. Because according to the process of where you're going, it might not be wise. But I'm not going to tell you why or how or what, because that's your story. It's how you observe it.
Right.
So it's the projection of your subconscious right now where it sees you going. You see, it doesn't mean that it's actually going to happen. It's the projection of what your subconscious is saying.
Right.
So that's why it's dangerous to go into it, because you might change your mind.
Yeah, and that's what I mean. You can tell the momentum of where something can go, but things can always shift.
Yeah. Sorry, I misunderstood. Yes.
So can you share an example then of a client that you've worked with and how your coaching techniques have helped them through this process, how it's helped them overcome limiting beliefs and achieve their goals?
Yes, of course. I'm going to tell you about this specific person. I'm not going to share any names, obviously.
Oh, of course.
Sure. Yeah.
She was a lovely young lady that I met. And we were working in the same, I was doing part-time, we were working in the same place. And she was very timid, very gentle, very quiet. You can barely hear her speak. You wouldn't even notice that she's there. She was so quiet. And her mother came up to me once and she said, I know that you're a coach. Can you please help my daughter? Can you just, she couldn't go to university because it was too overwhelming for her. She had to leave. I don't know what's going to happen. What's her future going to be like? Can you just see if you can talk to her? I said, yeah, of course, no problem. So I sat with her for a bit. We did like half an hour. We did, just a simple analysis like the one that I did for both of you. And I knew immediately where she was lacking when it came to, having self-awareness, having, motivation. She had trouble with that because she was always pampered in a way. She was always, everything is going to be fine. You don't need to go outside right now. You don't need to, whether it's motherly love or not, it doesn't matter. She formed a relationship with herself that it's not good to go outside. It's not good to mix with people. I don't like loud noises. I don't like this and I don't like that. And over time, it kind of became her reality. So after working together for a while, we only did it for I think 3 sessions, like half an hour each. I got her to open up a bit and I told you, it's okay. You can try this, you can try that. Long story short, she overcame those obstacles. She now has a job because she applied as part-time. They loved what she could do, so then they hired her. She has a job. She can travel on her own. She goes to, the last thing I heard is she went to a festival with some friends, which is something that she would never do. So yeah, there is a lot of benefit from it. Another person I could tell you about, they had some emotional issues that they were, having a problem with, and they didn't really feel safe anywhere in the environment. So we sat down, we had a little conversation. It was all from a misconception that she had when she was a child. So we addressed that, we worked through it, and she kind of opened up a bit. And slowly, within like about 2 years' time, it took, she's got a job, she's got a boyfriend, she's got a life, she travels. She's, I think she's in Australia now, going for a little fun ride. But yeah, you can bring people back. You can definitely bring people back. It's all to do with their emotional intelligence, with what stresses them out. If you can identify what the links are,
right,
then you can address them.
That's fascinating.
And so you with us, you kind of came up with like a process or an activity for us to do based on the handwriting. How do you come up with that? How does that process work?
Okay, well, I've already formulated a load of tools for
Mhm.
all sorts of different, occasions. When I look at your handwriting, I could immediately tell in business where you were, what you had ideas of. Even I shared with you a couple of things, and you were like, "Well, yeah, we were thinking about this. We were thinking about." You were confirming it in that, this was where you were going. So then I suggested you and Ross let's get together, because I already thought that if this is the situation and both of you are working together, maybe it'll be a good idea to put you through this little tool, which is about the
Mhm.
goals and settings and finding out what is really urgent for you to pay attention to right now, what is important, what can you leave.
And what's holding us back? Yeah.
Yeah, what's your, because if you're paying attention to the wrong thing, you're not going to progress, you're not going to move forward, you're just going to go round and round in circles. So because that's where I saw the progression was, I invited you again, and then we went and we had that conversation.
Mhm.
Awesome. So you do like trial session, like coaching sessions for people? Like how do people get in touch with you for getting more about how you can work with them and help them? I just dropped your website in the chat, and I'll do the Facebook as well. But what's the process of someone working with you? How does that happen?
Well, the first thing that I think is very important is, first we need to meet each other through Zoom. So it's a free discovery call. We'll just see if we're a match. Maybe they don't like me, maybe they do. They're completely free to decide what they want to do after that. During that session, at the moment, I am offering it free of charge, which is the handwriting analysis that I did for you and Ross. By doing that, they will know where their blind spots are, where their blocks are, and then it is up to them to decide if they wanted to continue to book with me or if they wanted to go with somebody else. It's absolutely fine. It's completely up to them. If they chose to book with me, then we have another call, another Zoom call, and we will discuss where they want to see themselves going. And then I can suggest which programs, or they might not even need a program. They might just need a couple of tools. So it depends on what the analysis is and what they really want. Everything is customized to the client. I don't put anybody through anything that's going to be, like they've already done it. It's going to be a waste of time. I will make sure that they will get absolutely 100% value out of it. And I will transform them. That's a guarantee. Yeah.
Awesome. So one of our watch viewers says, as Chris says, but practically, how do you do this? So maybe kind of give a insight for, because you've developed this as your own unique way of doing this, right? How does just looking at handwriting, how do you extract that info for what you bring to the table?
What I do is when I look at the sample of handwriting, I'm not just looking at it from a graphological point of view or from a handwriting analysis point of view. I'm looking at more of a subconscious point of view. Your perception, how are you seeing things? Why is it coming down this way? So mine is more scientific in that I go into the process of the brain and how the brain would function from having the inception of the idea of handwriting all the way to picking up the pen and then doing the writing, all of the steps that it goes through, because that in itself tells a story. It will tell a story of what their sensories are like. It will tell a story of what their emotional intelligence is like. It will tell a story of where their emotional stresses are like. Are they coming from a point of, fear, flight, fight, fawn? What is their mode? All of this is shown through it. Once you know how the brain works, you can figure this out. So this is how I know all of these details. This is what makes PTHA different from graphology and handwriting and the usual handwriting analysis, even though it is handwritten.
You're
But
using that tool. Yeah.
I look at other forms of it through your perception, through things, all of it's shown. And if you're going to, if also to go deeper into answering you is when you draw, like for example, Ross and Gary have seen this. You draw me an O, which is like a circle, and I say put a dot and cross it any way you like. Depending on how you cross it, where you cross it tells a story in itself. That's your perception. How are you seeing things? What are you focusing on? Where is your attention going? Are you even, I mean, like, are you paying attention to one aspect, or is it multi, you're looking at all different aspects? Are you like, focusing more on, like, for example, finance, or are you focusing more on the business, or it all comes through, like it can all show depending on the drawing and the analysis and where you place things, depending on the formation of your letters. That speaks itself, a story of itself. And seeing the coordination of where you drew it, so it's the hand-eye movement, how the circle's drawn, the size of it, the texture of it, the depth of, the pressure, all of this tells a story of how your mind is working. And that's what I'm actually reading. So I'm not reading into something that is, like I'm not doing fortune telling or anything of this sort. It's actually all related to the mind and how you are perceiving things and what your sensories are saying in return when you're writing. Does that make sense?
Yeah, yeah,
sure. So is in the advent of the computer and technology and things like that, is handwriting part of the process of the evolution of the thought process? In other words, where you have nowadays, I mean, they're not even teaching handwriting in schools now. Everybody is typing. And so is that going to affect a person's personal development, how their mind is going to grow?
Yes, definitely it will. And there are a lot of papers, a lot of studies that are reflecting this at the moment. You can just research it on the internet.
Yeah, I've read a few of them.
The relationship between handwriting and the brain and the growth is undoubtable compared to you just typing, because the movement you are using with all the neurochemicals that are being released and the hand-eye coordination and your limbic system and the fine motor control and all of these things that are going into play, they won't be interacting as much when you're just typing.
Right. Okay.
It's completely different. So your mood, you become more desensitized in a way if it's just on the computer than it is if you're writing. If you're writing, your creativity sparks up. You become, you have a wider sense of creation than if you're just drawing or on using the mouse or, whatever, your digital pen or anything of the sort. That's why I always say, if you want the analysis done, it has to be paper and pen or pencil. In Gary's situation.
Now, but when it comes to, let's say, for example, the digital pen, such where there actually is the same flow as if you were using a standard pen or pencil, is that going to make a difference? Does that help or hinder?
Well, it's debatable, because for some, you're not really experiencing the pressure. You're not really seeing how your emotions are coming through because it's digital.
Right.
So you're not having that actual sense of pen to paper when you're writing. To some others, they say it's the same. It's just, you're still flowing and you're still moving. So there's a debate going on between the two. I cannot comment on that. The reason why I don't like digital is because sometimes when you're writing, the digital pen would skip and it would not take the full entire line. And that will give a false positive on the analysis. So that's the only reason for me. I would think I need a paper and pen or pencil.
Now, do you have to, when you are working with your clients, do you have to have the actual physical paper in front of you so you can see that pressure?
No.
I mean,
They
I know
just need to
with
take a
us, you,
photo and
with us,
send it
you,
to me.
okay. So then how do you determine that aspect of the evaluation then?
Because when I blow up the picture, when I expand it,
Mhm.
it will show. There's certain indentations that will show. So I will know from that, and from the line movement, I can see, like when I expand it.
Oh, now you're just
Because the
showing off.
line will become darker in certain areas where there is pressure.
Right. Okay. Oh,
And the
that's
line is lighter when there are certain areas that they don't have that much pressure.
mhm.
So it depends. And when you do the circle analysis, like as I was saying before, when you have the, depending on how you're going to cross it, between the segments, each segment, which is why I mentioned to Gary when he put a circle within a circle, I was like, oh, you've given me a gold mine, because each segment tells a story, and each segment is its own lifeline. So for each segment, so if you split it into 4, for example, each one of those quarters will tell the story in full from start to finish of that area.
Mhm.
So when I first started, I had a protractor, and I would sit and I would divide the lines up continuously. It would take me hours to sit and do just one analysis. But then over time, because I've been doing this for so many years, I can just look at a paper now and I can just tell you exactly what's going on. But when I'm going to be teaching this, they're going to have to sit and they're going to have to use a ruler, a protractor, whatever. And they're going to have to sit and they have to measure it and identify and analyze. Yeah, it's not easy, but it's doable.
Mhm. Wow. I mean,
That's
go ahead, Gary.
Are you so because you kind of mentioned here, so then because this is your baby, if you will, your do you have programs of teaching people how to do this then? Have you got programs in place for that, or are you putting things in place
I
for
am
that
putting
for
things, yeah, I am putting things into place, but when they're going to be studying this, they're going to have to go through, I'm going to be creating it so it's special for PTHA, but they're going to have to go through modern applied psychology. They're going to have to
Mm.
learn about the brain. They're going to need to learn about the neurochemicals, the connections of the brain. They're going to need to learn about all the different parts of the brain. They're going to need to learn about emotional behaviors. They're going to need to, there's a lot they're going to need to learn about. So once they can finish all of that, then they'll be ready to come into the analysis. And then they'll
Got
be able to understand when they look at lines, what the lines actually say.
Right.
Very
Yeah.
cool. So
I
Chris
mean,
says, in the chat, she says, is our handwriting changing after we have worked with you and figured out our issues?
Yes.
Yeah. And I'm guessing it's not going to be drastic, right? Sometimes there's just going to be certain shifts in curvatures or flow and stuff like that. So it's not going to be like, who's this writing this thing, right?
No. No. I'll give you an example. I had somebody I was working with a few months ago. She was an extreme introvert. She was very shy. She didn't like, but she was in the same group that I was in. And she said, and can you just analyze my handwriting, just to help me out a bit? I was like, yeah, of course. So we were just having some fun with it. It wasn't like she wasn't like a proper client or anything. We were just having fun with it. So I saw the slant of how she was writing and her letter formation, how small it was and how tight it was, and how, and as we were working together, it only took like a couple of, I think it was like twice. She just took a photo, she sent it to me, and I texted her back the report, and she drew another one, and I texted her back, and that was it. And she came back to me afterwards and she said, Yasmin, can you help? There's something wrong with my handwriting. I told her, what do you mean? She said, my slant is different now. It's not, all the way. It's moving. I told, yeah, it's because now you're becoming more, you're more confident. And I told her, tell me what's changed in you. So she said, before I was too embarrassed to go live. I couldn't do, like Facebook Live. I couldn't take videos of myself and post them. I didn't like communicating. I didn't like posting anything. I was very shy, but I was forced to because the business required it. So slowly, as she started doing it, her handwriting changed. Like she didn't intentionally change her handwriting. Her behavior changed, which led to those simple things to change. So the direction of your writing might change. Instead of it sloping to the right, it might go to the left, or vice versa. The size of the writing would change. It might become a bit bigger. It might become a bit smaller. And another thing will change is like how you're connecting your letters together, whether it's a D, if it's fully connected or there's a gap in it. If you like to talk to people, your O, there'll be an opening in it, depending on, what the situation is. These simple things will change, nothing really drastic, but there will be a change and you will notice it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And I mean, I've got journals that go all the way back till I was 15, 16. And if I look back, you can see, different stages where, yes, there's an overall me handwriting, but there's definite shifts in different time frames of my life for sure.
Yeah, definitely. And Gary, I did this exercise with you when I said you have to say one complete truth and one complete lie.
Mm-hmm.
And when you were writing them down, you could see that within, if it's a lie, because our brain doesn't like to lie. Our whole system doesn't like to lie. It's not created that way. So when you tell a lie, it will show in your handwriting. The spacing between the letters will be different. The context of the lettering will be different. The size, the shape of the letters will be different on the area of the lie, but everything else will be exactly the same. And so your handwriting will change.
It's the power of the unconscious, right? I mean, and even when because I'm a retired hypnotherapist, and there were some sessions where we would do sessions where clients would do automatic writing, and they'd be just blown away by, hey, who's writing that thing? And it's like, well, it's your unconscious mind that's taking over and just doing it for you. It's I think people, because it's something so ingrained in our upbringing in our societies, we just take it for granted, right? That we're just doing this thing. We don't realize that there's all these nuances that go into it. It's like language for me. So when I hear you talking, for me, it's like language. I can hear when I'm speaking with someone and we're in a conversation, I can hear nuances that tell me the unconscious level, all kinds of stuff that they just think they're in a conversation. Right. But it pops out to me. I say, oh, there's a limiting belief that's clear. There's, they're projecting that in the future. I mean, I can see all these, and the whole timeline pops out for me, just like I'm guessing it does for you with the writing.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. That's exactly the same. Exactly the same. And I don't know if I noticed these things. I know that I've noticed these things after the car accident. So I'm not quite sure if the car accident itself had something to do with me or having this insight, or whether it's me trying to reconnect and create new connections in my mind that I've opened up something.
Quite possible.
But I can teach it.
Yeah.
So what I've gleaned from this conversation so far is that we've actually determined a new political process for electing people into office. Please, sir, if you would like to do this, would you write this out for me? And then we'll send it to you. I was like, no, that's not right. That's not right. That's not right.
Well, actually,
okay.
Actually, there is a letter that I will share with you and Ross later on. If you were to write that letter, and it was part of your analysis, by the way, if you write this letter, you can identify how the person, if they come up with ideas quickly, if they were to be able to research quickly enough, if they're able to execute quickly. So you've got a whole team of people and you want to identify, do I have a strong team? And how can I take my team to another level? You get all of them to write this one letter, right? A capital letter. And then from it, you can definitely define them. So you'll see somebody who is really powerful at research and another person is not as powerful as research. Delegate. take it from this person, give it to this person, because that's where that person excels. You see, the first person who can do great research is not that strong when it comes to execution. Yet number 3 is excellent at execution. Well, then you delegate to that person after you're done with the research, so on and so forth. And before you know it, you've got a powerhouse. The simplest things that the mind can show you, that a lot of people are oblivious to, because nobody's really taken a good look at handwriting analysis. And a lot of people frown at it because they don't really think it's something where actually you've got gold in it.
Wow. A lot of light bulbs just went off in a lot of our students, that's for sure.
Yeah. I will share it with you guys later.
My head's going all over the place too. So you also mentioned that, you know, for each letter, you have like each letter, you have a different process or reveal something different. So
Yes.
Does that work the same for different languages then? So like, because we're talking English letters right now, right? So
yeah.
So like, to what degree have you gone with other languages?
I've done it in English and I've done it in Arabic. And if you can do English
Wow.
and Arabic, you can do any color, anything you
Wow.
want. The most important
Yeah.
thing is that you have the language you're going to be working with. You need to have the original script of how it's supposed to be written.
Mhm.
And then from that, once you see how it's supposed to be written, then when you come to write, because if you remember, I tell you, draw me a circle. I didn't tell you, draw me an O. So depending on the letter you're going to be using, there's certain formations of writing that letter that will signify specific elements. So if I'm going to tell somebody, write me a capital B, that's in English. In Arabic, it's a different B, but the placement, like in Arabic, it's, let me see if I can like, just give you an example really quickly. Sorry about the mess. I don't know if this is going to show up or not. I'm hoping it will. So that's kind of like a B in Arabic. It's kind of like a, sorry, can you see it?
There you go,
Yeah.
right there.
Okay. So it's kind of like a little curve and a dot underneath. So depending on how the curve is, depending on how straight the curve is, where it's located, depending on where the dot at the bottom is, the difference where the location it's supposed to be and where this person's written it will tell a story.
Interesting.
That's fascinating. So, Yasmin, have you ever analyzed historical figures, their handwriting?
No, I haven't gone that deep yet, but I'd like to.
Yeah, that would be fascinating.
The thing that I've had to really train myself to do is to put a limit on when I'm allowed to analyze and when I'm not allowed to analyze. And I think this is very important because anybody who writes anything in front of me, I can just see their whole entire life. And that's just not ethical.
You got to turn
in
it
my
off.
view.
Yeah.
So it took me a while to process. I have to ask your permission.
Yeah.
I had to train myself to do this because I don't want to invade people's privacy. So I have to ask, would you allow me to do the analysis? Once you say yes, I'm like, okay, fine, then I can do it. I'll give myself permission. So
it's the same
looking
with
at
language. You got to turn it off. Otherwise it's on all the time. And it's like, it's too
exactly
much. Yeah. For them
so,
and for you.
yeah. So unless I've got somebody's permission, I cannot really look into their analysis. So I haven't really dealt with any influential people yet, but hopefully soon.
Mm-hmm.
You never know.
That's awesome.
For sure. This is absolutely fascinating. So, so you could, in essence, I mean, I see this being used in, psych wards in hospitals to help alleviate people's pains or where they can't communicate or they don't know what the problem is. I can see this being used in maybe even law enforcement to a degree, where it gives you a truer picture of who that person is and where they came from, where they're at now, and as you said, the direction that a lot of them may be heading, that could be intervened with, so that they didn't cause harm to others or cause harm to themselves. Do you see that type of a future for this process?
It could be. I'd have to develop it specifically for that cause.
Mhm.
So I'd have to take specific letters and identify them and develop a tool for it. So when somebody comes to utilize this tool, it will be specific for this. Otherwise, they won't get the reading that they need.
Right. Hmm. I mean, but
Yeah.
say for example, you have somebody who has experienced a traumatic event in their life. Let's say they're in law enforcement or military or such, and we're talking more of the PTSD type of situation where you could have them go through a process, and then you could, I'm assuming, you could look at that and say, you're not over this, or this is where, you may not want to say this is where this is heading with this, but it's more of a tool to say you need to get more help. You need to have more, more coaching or more evaluation done, because what you think you're thinking, you're not. Can this be that powerful?
Yes, that would be used with, if you remember, I mentioned the two banks of a river.
Mm-hmm. Right.
I have done this before, and I have seen, I was with someone before who was having some sort of traumatic attacks every now and then. They've had these happening for them for a while, and they were seeing a psychologist for it. And then they came to me, and then just by chance, they said they just drew, because they heard that I can do this, and they were like, haha, very funny. So then they drew something for me, and they put it in front of me, and I saw there was going to be a relapse. But I couldn't say anything because, of course, I didn't want to hurt them or, scare them.
Right.
And I did mention it to somebody else, and they took it upon them to kind of, bring the subject forward, if you want.
Sure. Right.
But the person didn't listen, and they didn't take it, and they just went on. And then they did have a psychotic breakdown, unfortunately.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But they're on the mend now, so I'm wishing them the very best of health, and hopefully everything will be okay. But it does happen, and you can see it, especially with the two banks of a river. That will definitely show. Because I'm going to give you a bit of insight into this. With the two banks of a river, you have your whole life laid in front of you, basically. So depending on how the river is moving will tell you how the progress is going to be. Some people will flow beautifully. Other people will have constrictions. Other people will have aspects coming up. Other people will have, they'll have dips showing. And each one of those has a meaning. Each one of those is symbolized by something, according to the analysis that I've developed. So from that, you can tell if there's going to be an issue, or if it's going to be something mild, or if they need to have a conversation, or if they're just going to live, very happy, fulfilled in whatever it is that they're going to do.
Right. So what type of information, when they're doing this, the two banks, what type of information or process do they go through to make that happen for you? How do you get the information from them?
Well, just by drawing the two banks of a river, I just analyze it. It's as simple as.
Really?
To them, however, it's how they will take the information that's crucial. Right. Because even if it's somebody who's not having an issue, even if it's just a normal person, if it wasn't too invasive, I would have said to one of you guys, do you guys want to draw a river and show me and let me give an analysis? But
that'll be after the show.
Too much. It might be a bit too much for live, but through it, I can see all sorts of things that are going on with your perception and with your subconscious mind and where it's telling you to go. Because don't forget, as a person, your mind already knows a lot more information than what you anticipate you know. You already have a viewpoint of years to come ahead of time. You just haven't tapped into it yet. Just like, for example, just to give you a very mild example, you think, there might be a tiger behind a bush. Well, how would you know? You didn't see it. but you anticipated it. And your mind can go much further, because when you have a goal, you've already envisioned where you want to get to. And if you're going to do like some of the NLP exercises, you want to envision what you want to do in the future and then bring it forward so that you can create that vision for yourself. So having that in mind, from that aspect, you can analyze ahead of time by seeing where the person is heading to. That's where you end and where the future is.
Mm-hmm.
You can tell the progression. You can tell where this person is aiming to go to, as what Gary said, the momentum of where they're going. And bringing that forward, you already know this is where this person is heading. What does that mean? And by their personality, by their trait, by what they're doing, by their work, you can anticipate, okay, so I see this person's going this way because they're going to stay in this job, they're going to change the job, they're going to do this, they're going to do that. It's all visible if you know how to read the lines.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And can you, to some degree, say, okay, I know where you want to go, but these things need to change in order to get there?
We could do, but that requires a different kind of analysis. It's also with lines, but it's a different formation of the lines that would show that.
Mm-hmm.
That would show that. That one I did with somebody I knew before. I've asked her to draw me a rectangle, put a dot in the middle and cross it, because I wanted to see where her aspects were, where her ratios were, where she was, what her thought mode was. And from that, I immediately saw that you're focusing on the wrong thing. You're not going where you need to be going, because this is where your focus is, and you're kind of, which is one of the reasons why I built that new tool about the goals that I shared with you and Gary, seeing where you're focusing. Because I thought, if I'm going to ask people to just draw me a rectangle every time, they're going to tell me, what the hell are you talking about? what are you doing? So I thought I'd make a bit more sense out of it by translating that tool into language, which is something I'm looking into now. How can I translate some of these handwriting elements into a language so that they can come together in a course? So when a person does analysis, they've got something that is logical for the client to look at, and that they can understand it a bit more. If that makes sense.
Yeah.
Does that answer the question, or have I deviated
No,
a bit?
It does. It does. I mean, because it kind of comes down to where, we've run into many times that where somebody has a conscious idea of where they want to go, but their subconscious has a whole different plan. And then trying to get those to line up can be challenging. It's like, no, this is what I want to do. Like, yeah, but that's not where you're going.
In life coaching, there's this field in life coaching, which is intuitive life coaching. Something I tapped into before. But one of the things I've learned from there, which I didn't take seriously until I actually tried it, was they tell you can have a conversation with your subconscious. And in order for you to have a conversation with your subconscious, your dominant hand, you take but I think everybody's going to enjoy doing this from whoever's watching. You take your dominant hand and then you write a question with it. So, like, for example, I'm planning to do such and such by August. How can I move forward with it? Then you take your non-dominant hand and then you write with it, but you let the information flow. You try not to control it. Yes, the handwriting is going to be horrible. You probably won't be able to understand it, but the information will flow. You'll understand what you're going through. You will have the thought process come to you. And as you're writing, you'll be amazed at what you're writing. So then you take it back to your dominant hand, and then you write the next question, which is, why is this going to happen this way? And you change your hand and you let it flow. And whatever it is that's coming through, you write it down, and you'll be amazed at what you get. So if you try this exercise, and people will see if they're matching or not with their subconscious, kind of, in a way. I'm sure we can figure out some questions and some things that could be standard. But if you do that, it's an easier way for them to find out what they're doing. I'm also thinking of a different letter that we might be able to use for that. I do have an idea, but I have to tinker with it a bit to see if it's, because unless it's 100% accurate, I don't dare give anything out.
Okay, well, great. So
But
the
yeah.
next time we have you on the show, then you'll have that all figured out for us. So,
Oh yeah, definitely.
so this is the task for everybody that's listening. Follow that example that Yasmin just gave us. You're going to again, with your dominant hand, you're going to write your intention, and then with your non-dominant hand, you're going to write how you're going to accomplish that, or just let it just free flow.
Just let it flow. Don't
Just
try
let
to
it
control it in any way or shape or form. Just let the information come through.
Okay.
And if nothing comes through, that means that you're focusing on the wrong thing.
Oh, powerful. Okay. So then for everybody listening, if you could do us a favor and just, you don't have to write us what the question was or what the answers was, but just say if you had a match or you didn't have a match. And
come back to the post and let us know in the comments.
Exactly. So that is awesome. So that was the fastest hour we've ever done. Yasmin, thank you so very much for joining us. Gary, you have any last questions?
No, stuff my brain's already going on other things that we'll talk about after it.
Yeah, I can see it. I can see all the gears working, mine too. All right. Well, thank you so very, very much. We have put your website link in the comments, and we have put your Facebook link in the comments. Anything else you'd like to share before we end today's show?
Yeah, just about the website. The website is getting updated. So if you see the information changes, that's why. I was going to supply the website later, but we just thought, why not? Just put it in anyway.
But they can reach out and contact you at either of those places if they want to.
Yeah. There is a contact me form there that they can contact me with. The best place to reach me is on Facebook.
Okay. All right. Fantastic.
Great.
Yasmin, again, thank you so very much for your wisdom. We will definitely be having you on the show again, because this is absolutely fascinating. Plus, you're going to have your new revised processes working as well. And that's all we have. Everybody, we want to thank you very much for joining us. We've got all kinds of interesting guests that are all lined up through the rest of the year. And so this is your place to stay. And you can get the replay here on the page. You also can go to YouTube and type in @Infinity Matrix, and that'll take you right to all of our recordings, including the playlist of all the Infinite Wisdom interviews that we've done. So,
and also, if you're not a part of our private group, you can also jump on, join that. We've got the link to that pinned to the top of the comments. You're going to want to join in that if you're not already there. There's 3 quick questions you need to answer to be accepted into that. We've got some really cool stuff on the verge of being released just for the group alone, for the private group. So make sure you are jumping on that and joining us there for some really cool stuff we have coming up very shortly.
Exactly. And look for our virtual roundtable. It's going to be amazing. So thank you, everyone. Thank you, Yasmin.
Thank you for having me. Thank you, everyone. Bye.
Bye-bye. The storm isn't coming. It's here. And most of us weren't ready for this onslaught of trials and tribulations we're currently facing. They require new concepts and new tactics to prepare you for what lies ahead. We want to show you how to unleash the full sum of your entrepreneurial potential, challenging all of your energy, harnessing all of your power into a force of unstoppable momentum. If your growth and continuing evolution of your life are of paramount importance to you, and if you genuinely aspire to make 2023 and beyond the most fulfilling of your life, then it's crucial to make the most of every opportunity that comes your way. We offer you a turning point in your life, in your career, propelling you towards the business success you've always dreamed of. Please, don't miss out on this chance to break free from the shackles of financial hardship. Don't lose this opportunity to elevate yourself to new heights of business mastery. Claim your free VIP ticket now Get exclusive access to Gary and Ross and seize the $1,600 in bonuses that we've set aside for you. Do it before it's too late. So click on the registration link below and let us support you every step of the way on your journey beyond success.